Locked on Longhorns, the show. Jonathan Davis, your host. Today's episode of Locked on Longhorns is brought to you by LinkedIn. Look, y'all all know John Garcia, director of football recruiting at Sports Illustrated. Well, now we got Jason Jordan, the director of basketball recruiting at Sports Illustrated, here to talk about what this Texas basketball team is doing. Some amazing things, and Chris Beard definitely has put his imprint on the 40 acres in his second year as the head basketball coach of the University of Texas. Before we talk about this Texas men's basketball team currently being ranked fourth in the country after their big win over Gonzaga, we have a little bit of some breaking news that dropped today, and that is top 15 player in the country, AJ Johnson, committing to Chris Beard in the Longhorns. What are they getting in the South California prospect in AJ Johnson?
Oh man, a dynamic scorer, dynamic athlete, 6'5", long. You know, he and Jalen Green call each other brothers. They're not, blood brothers, but they're really close. But the funny thing is they look alike and their games are similar. Like they're built the same, they play like each other. So AJ's a dynamic athlete, can slide over and play both guard positions, but I think he's at his best when he's downhill, looking to score and just looking in attack mode in essence, right? So, but he's a guy who's going to offer the wow plays, the wow dunks. He's going to be on Sports Center top 10. Just a fact, But he had a big summer with Jalen Green Elite. He plays for his AAU team. Go figure that. At the we did Adidas 3 SSB. I thought he was one of the best players on the circuit. It's funny. I don't I still think he's underrated. I think some people have him a little lower than I would have him. Our SI 99 comes out next month, and I think he'll probably be higher up there than he is at most places. But yeah, a guy obviously I'm very high on because he checks off a lot of boxes on the offensive end. But he brings that fire and that intensity, and that's one of the biggest things I put a premium on because I think the motor separates good players from great players and great players from special players. So I think he has a potential to be a special player.
Yeah, so I live in Houston, so I know a little bit about Jalen Green, and that's a great comp. When you just talk about such an explosive scorer, I think Jalen Green came into the league as an advanced scorer. So if Texas is getting that, and AJ Johnson, that's great. When you talk about two commitments, two top 15 commitments right now for this 2023 team, and AJ Johnson and Ron Holland, what type of foundation does that give you going into this 2023 season with two of the most talented players in the country, two one and done talent level players on your basketball team in
Yeah.
2023?
Well, it's big. I mean, it gives a huge recruiting push. I mean, Ron is like the most. I wrote this before AJ committed. I said having Ron was gonna draw players in because everybody wants to play with Ron because he's such a great teammate. He's such a great. He always makes the right basketball play, right? So it doesn't matter if it's him that scores it. If you're open, he's gonna make he's gonna make that third pass, get a piece of the paint, kick it out, and then he's just a winner, right? Ron wins everywhere. Wherever he goes, you're gonna win. It's been proven time and time again. And so to have a guy like that and then have a dynamic scorer like AJ in the fold, I can imagine you guys are probably gonna, hit that transfer portal because every coach does, because that's the new world we live in. And I think that's going to draw more and more elite prospects in the portal and even maybe even in high school um, to want to be a part of what. And then you're winning now. Well, I guess we'll talk about that in a minute. But I just tweeted Chris Beard is having an amazing day. So because he's just this is amazing money. It's going to be a heck of a practice today. He's going to be fired up. So yeah, I think it definitely helps from a perception standpoint, and perception is huge in recruiting.
Yeah. And so you talk about this team this year, and they're currently ranked number 4 in the country coming off of their big win
Yeah.
over Gonzaga. Right now, Jason, as you watch the full landscape of college basketball, do you feel like Texas is one of the 4 best college basketball teams in the country?
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And obviously, we're being prison. There's no way that we cannot be a prisoner of the moment when you dog walk Gonzaga the way that they did. I mean, they just beat the brakes off of them. Drew Timme looked really, and he had 18 points, but he looked really normal, right? He looked really normal with Dylan in there, just bothering them all night, just getting on his nerves. But I think because your front court. I think the best thing about your team, obviously, let's talk about the guards first. Tyrese. People were like Tyrese and Marcus Carr. How's they gonna work? And it looks like they might have the best backcourt in the country, right? I mean, I think they're averaging like 31 and 10, or like 31 and 5, 7 and 8 between them. That's insane. And then you add in Jabari Rice. That's the best trio guard wise in the country right now.
That's your opinion that Marcus Carr, Serge Jabari Rice, and Tyrese Hunter are the best 3 guard rotation in the country at the University of Texas. Wow, that's big. That's big.
Yeah, I want everybody to argue with me because I'm gonna throw the stats at them, and then I'm gonna say that they're beating 50. They're 55-3 fast break. I mean, granted, we're 3 games into the season, but they did just play Gonzaga, and they did just score 27 points off turnovers against Gonzaga and forced them into 20 turnovers. Now, so there's that. But an averaging 18 fast break points a game. The thing is with Texas, they come in swarms. We haven't even talked about their freshmen yet. I didn't even say them. I didn't even say them, right? But they come in swarms. So as much as Dylan bothered Drew Timme, visibly you could see it. Dylan bothered Jabari. I mean, not Jabari, Drew Timme. Dylan Mitchell bothered him. Brock Cunningham bothered him. Christian bothered him. They're coming. They can come in swarms, and the depth is overwhelming. It's just overwhelming. And then when but when you start with that trio in the backcourt, I mean, I always say the best way to win. Look at the last 2 champions. There were playmakers all over the court, but specifically in the backcourt, just playmakers. Forget positions. They're just playmakers, and that's what you guys have in Marcus, Rice, and Tyrese.
So we know a Chris Beard coach team that they're going to go out there every night and try to win the toughness battle, and they're going to go out there every night and more times than not win the defensive battle. But where there has been some inconsistency with Texas basketball and maybe Chris Beard and some of his previous stops is on the offensive end. And we saw that last year where it felt like if Texas gave up more than 65 points, they just weren't going to win that game. It seems like this year they have some more offensive firepower and should be more consistent on the offensive end. What do you see offensively from this team?
Yeah, I mean, well, once again, you talk about, look at all the draft boards and you see Dylan Mitchell in the you'll see him in the NBA lottery, right? Mock drafts, right? You've seen this, of course.
Yeah, top 15 pick.
He's averaging 7 points a game, right, on this team because Dylan is a beast. Dylan's back healthy, right? And it's okay. And that's Dylan Mitchell, though. Like, Dylan doesn't care because, oh, by the way, he's averaging 8.3 rebounds, which leads your team, right? And he's still, with that logical progression, he'll probably have. We're being 3 games into the season. Next week they could look horrible, and then I'm like, oh, I was wrong, right? but as of right now, and the only thing I can look, I'm not a soothsayer, I'm not a fortune teller. I'm gonna go by what I saw, and they played a talented team, a team that a lot of experts picked to get to the Final Four in Gonzaga, and they just made them look really average, and they made them look like they didn't belong in that standing, not as of right now. And so, yeah, I mean, Dylan Mitchell hasn't even started to. He's just starting to find his way, which is scary. We haven't even talked about Arterio Morris, but serving the role as a really good back. That's going to be tough. And I said that early on. It's like, you got Tyrese, Marcus, and Jabari. It's going to be tough to find your way in that trio. So maybe even that. If we want to reach and talk about, well, what could the thing be that unravels, and maybe it could be the locker room. It could be keeping everybody motivated and keeping them accepting of their role for the greater good of the team. So there are things that come into play when you have a talented team like that. And so that's going to be, managing personalities. I mean, ask any coach with a lot of talent, and that's going to be job number 1, 2, and 3. So, we'll see as it progresses. But right now, I would say they're in a really good position. And 100%, they're one of the top 4 teams in the country. There's no doubt about that.
All right, quick word from Bet Online, and then we're going to talk about those two freshmen he just mentioned a little bit more, Dylan Mitchell and Arterio Morris, as well as where Texas stacks up in one of the best conferences in basketball in the country, if not the best in the Big 12. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts. Jason, you talked about it. You talked about Marcus Carr, right? Serge Jabari Rice, Tyrese Hunter. We haven't even talked about Timmy Allen, who was the leading scorer last year. But then you have Dylan Mitchell, who, like you said, is likely to be a top 15 NBA pick in the draft, right, this year. And then Arterio Morris, who was a 5-star coming out of the Dallas area, who's coming off the bench and really hasn't even shown his potential yet. So just talk a little bit more about Dylan Mitchell and what he brings to this team, and then what Texas fans should expect to see from Arterio Morris moving
Yeah.
forward throughout the
Yeah.
season.
So Dylan Mitchell last year was probably the best player on the, I would say maybe not the best, but the most important player on the best team in the country at Mount Bird Academy last year, because he was the matchup problem that you just don't have an answer for. It's like, I mean, yeah, I can stop Derek, I can stop this guy, I can stop that Dylan Mitchell. I mean, he, like, God, I mean, tried everything. This guy just because at his size and his skill set, he just impacts the game in so many different ways, as you all have seen, and he's good with it. Like he's like, oh, but you're only averaging 7 points a game. Well, clearly you haven't seen us play, and you haven't seen the impact on and off the stat sheet, and you just the way his ability to guard multiple positions in the front court and even the backcourt and on the perimeter, are things that you're going to see even more as the season goes on. He's so long. He's a guy who can change the momentum because of his athleticism. But the biggest thing about him is he always makes the right basketball play. Like he's also a guy who's going to make the extra pass. He's not the guy who always has to get all the shine, because he's a high IQ guy. So he knows what the right basketball play is. And then he accepts that and he makes that play. And so sometimes you got to really make it really ABC 1, 2, 3, because a lot of guys overthink the game. But he's a guy he just does in every given situation. He does what he has to do to make that situation successful. Does that make sense? Like, so
Yeah, no, I mean he's always going to make the right basketball
he's
play, like you
always
said. Like
going to make
he's
the right
not a,
basketball play.
it's a we not me player, right? It's a we not me player for sure.
100%. And that comes from his background at Montverde, right? Because that's a traveling all-star team every year. This year is no different. So you're not going to come here and average 20. That's the first thing they tell you. At Chris, I'm sure Chris will tell you, you're not coming here and averaging 20, 25 a game. That's not going to happen. You want to do that, go somewhere else. But if you want to win, and if you want to be part of something that's bigger than you, this is a place where you can go, and you're going to be able to exploit a lot of different matchups, especially as the season goes on. Y'all haven't even seen he's just scratching the surface. He's just showing you a little bit now. But I mean, he's a guy, he's a rim runner, a guy who's going to give you the wow plays, the momentum shifting wow plays. And then he's probably going to, I said before the season started, he's going to lead them in rebounding just because he has a nose for the ball. And he's that second jump. People talk about the second jump. He's really quick off his feet on that second jump. In basketball, people know what I'm talking about. He thrives in that space for sure. And so he's definitely a guy that's just only going to get better as the season goes on.
What should Texas fans expect from Arterio Morris moving forward? Because I know they haven't really seen, his offensive prowess just yet.
Yeah, it's tough because you have to be able to. I mean, he has it. He has it for sure. Like he's a 3-level scorer, dominant, can be dominant. But the reality is, you have to have the opportunity to be dominant. It's all about opportunity. Can he do it? Sure. I think he'll get the chance, but right now it's just clicking with that trio. And the biggest thing is buying in, and will he be able to buy in over the course of the season? You'll see flashes because he's just too good not to see him. And he's averaging I think he's averaging like 15 to 17 minutes a game. That's enough time for you to be able to see what he's capable of. And but I think he's gonna buy. I mean, there's no way around the fact that these three guys are playing their best basketball right now. And so it's tough to interrupt that that cohesive gelling. That's a process, and you know, but it's tough. I've seen it work out. I've seen it backfire. I've seen it get better over time, i.e., 5-star guys with big reputations that are supposed to be XYZ, but they come in and the upperclassmen are just having a really good start to the season. And so I've seen that go a couple different ways. But I think so far, Chris is doing a pretty good job of, implementing him and giving him his time. And, I think Arterio, sometimes we got to be realistic about, where we're at, even with all this big standing and you being a 5-star, whatever. I think a lot of 5-star kids benefit from being in a position where it's not all on them, and it affords you the luxury to sit back and learn, and that's something I think especially in y'all's league, I think all guards need that, whether they know it or not. So I think as long as he gels and accepts his role, I definitely think it'll end up being a good thing for him.
Definitely. I mean, we talk about having a player as talented as Arterio Morris and Serge Jabari Rice coming off the bench. This Texas team, at least through the first 3 games, has shown the ability to go 8-9 deep. One more question before I get you out of here. You talk about a Baylor, right? You talk about a Texas Tech. You talk about a Kansas. You talk about an Iowa State, right? And then Texas. The Big 12 is just loaded when it comes to basketball. You said that without a doubt, Texas is one of the 4 best teams in the country. So that means that you think they are undoubtedly one of the best teams in the Big 12. Where do you see them stacking up amongst some of these other juggernauts in the conference?
Meaning, where do I see them? Like, where do I see?
Like, as of right now,
okay.
I guess with Kansas, Baylor, and Texas, how would you rank those 3 teams right now early in the season?
I gotta go Texas number 1. I'd have to. I mean, I think they have the 3 best guards, the 3 best guard tandem in the country. And it's, for me, it starts with the guards and the playmakers. And are those guards playmakers? And do they have a cohesive unit gelling together? Yes, and yes, right? So I'd have to say I'm going Texas. Man, that's tough. Texas, Kansas, Baylor right now.
Yeah, as long as you put Texas number 1, I don't know if the rest matters on this podcast.
No, it does. And trust me, I'm going to get some text on that. Yep. I'm going to get some text from Waco on that one. But, we're saying today. That's got to be the order.
All right. And do you think it ends that way this season? Obviously, in the conference tournament, anything can happen. But as far as the regular season standings, do you believe that Texas can make it through conference play and come out on the other end the best team in the Big 12, at least standings wise?
You said, can they? Yes. So will they? We'll see. It's we got a long season ahead. We got a lot, but can they? Absolutely. It wouldn't shock me at all. That I'm telling you, when you have 3 playmaking guards that obviously gel together and have chemistry and have that level of talent, I mean, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah. I know it's still football season, and I know football is the marquee sport at the University of Texas, but you have to pay attention to what Chris Beard is doing, and I'm glad that my brother Jason Jordan came on to help us get excited for this basketball season. Great times ahead on the 40. Thank you, Jason. Hook 'em and peace.
Yes, sir.